Attorney General Letitia James has ended her run for governor of New York. Instead, she'll focus on re-election for her current job in 2022. In a statement, she says, in part, there are a number of important investigations and cases that are underway, and I intend to finish the job. The Attorney General's decision also comes as several outlets report she's seeking to subpoena former President Donald Trump as part of her investigation into potential fraud inside the Trump organization. So joining me now are Tara Dowdell and Basil Smikle. And Tara is a Democratic strategist. Mr. Smikle is the former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. So good morning to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Morning. Morning.
So Tara, let me begin with you here. What do you make of Letitia James dropping out of the governor's race? Is she essentially deciding that she has bigger fish to fry maybe by going after the former president?
Well, I think that may have played a role in it, but there are a lot of rumors that labor may be backing Kathy Hochul in a pretty significant way, that a number of labor unions are lining up behind her and that she's locked down some of their support already. So that's one thing that is probably not being talked about very much, but those rumors are circulating. Also, Kathy Hochul did a great job of very quickly moving to get endorsements from various state legislators, in the Senate as well as in the Assembly. And it's a diverse group from a diverse part of the state.
So, Basil, let me talk then about that. She's referencing those endorsements, right? But there's also the Siena poll, Basil, that was released this week. It showed the current Governor Kathy Hochul really leading the race by double digits over the Attorney General. But it was early. It showed 24% of the voters were undecided. Many people saw James really as the best challenge to Governor Hochul. So how does the race shake up now with her dropping out?
Well, all of those things are true. Tish James was a very strong contender for this race, but I think Tara's right that Kathy Hochul did a really good job very early on coming downstate, getting a lot of support from the incoming mayor, from a lot of elected officials, from donors. And that's a big deal here, that she raised a tremendous amount of money in a short period of time. So what that does is it sort of makes the race prohibitive for others to get into. So having said that, you know, we're left with Jumaane Williams, who actually, he may not raise a lot of money, but he is a very strong progressive candidate. And he ran against Kathy Hochul a couple of years ago for lieutenant governor, leaning on that to try to make a good run this time. And you have Tom Suozzi, member of Congress, who, you know, is going to be strong, who wants to be strong in the suburbs. Really good retail candidate who ran several years ago for governor. But it's going to be hard for him to make the case now. And then potentially Mayor de Blasio, who has yet to formally announce, but, you know, with his race and his candidacy and Jumaane Williams coming out of Brooklyn together, it just splits a vote that Kathy Hochul can sort of pick up the rest of.
Well, yeah, and that's a perfect segue to my next question, Tara, is what exactly happens now with Jumaane Williams, Bill de Blasio, and Tish James now out, but what does that mean for that Brooklyn vote, especially because the head of the Brooklyn Democrats came out yesterday and said, we're endorsing Hochul?
Well, I think Brooklyn is a very interesting bird because in Brooklyn, there's a lot of diversity of opinion and progressive. It's a really strong progressive stronghold there. So Brooklyn could still very much show a lot of support for Jumaane Williams. He's well respected in Brooklyn. Well known in Brooklyn. Obviously, it's his home base. And so I think he's going to command a certain percentage of the vote just because he's recognized as a strong progressive, as Basil said. So I think from that perspective, he's still going to, no matter who endorses Hochul, there's going to be that progressive base is going to lean towards him probably in a significant way.
You know, Basil, I know you hear a lot of the inner conversations that are happening. There was this rumor yesterday that Jay Jacobs, the head of the New York Democratic Party, was said to be calling all of the Democratic contenders, telling them to drop out of the race, saying it's not the time to challenge an incumbent. That was a few reports that were on social media. Any truth to this?
Well, I can't say that there's any specific truth to it, but I would tell you it would not surprise me. I'd say that because, number one, you know, the governor is the standard bearer of the party for the state. And whatever the governor wants, I think the chair of the Democratic Party will sort of commit to that. Technically, it's supposed to be balanced. Technically, the party is not supposed to be involved in the primary because it's sort of that family fight, right? But the truth is, from the party's perspective, what you don't want is a civil war. And there's a convention before the primary in June, and the concern was that we would have all of these big candidates coming into the convention to challenge a sitting governor who herself is making history, and that you'd get into the civil war that may leave whoever wins vulnerable to a Republican. So I understand the concern and why Jay might do that.
I only have a few seconds left here, but I also want to ask you guys, what happens now with the Attorney General's race, right? Do the current Democratic candidates who already announced, do they suspend their campaigns now that Tish James is running for re-election? Let me give you both time on this one. Basil, begin with you, and Tara, you can take us home.
Well, listen, now that Tish James is running for re-election, everybody else is going to step aside, have to, because I don't think she could be beaten.
Tara?
I'm not there yet, because I do wonder about Zephyr Teachout, right? So, but I do think that, look, it's going to be hard for people now that Tish James is back in that race. And also, she has come out early and strong with all this support. So it will be a challenge. It's going to be interesting to watch the intrigue as it unfolds. But the only person I'm not sure about is Zephyr Teachout.
All right, Tara, Basil, good to have you both here on an important day in New York politics. Always a roller coaster of a ride in New York politics. My goodness. Okay, never a dull moment.